1260 KDUZ News, I'm Mark Wodarczyk. A Cross Lake man will spend 11 months in jail for the traffic death of a 3-year-old boy in 2009. A Crow Wing County judge sentenced Sherman Frederick Thursday. The sentence is less than 4 years in prison, called for under state guidelines. Frederick also will be on supervised probation for 10 years. In May, a jury found Frederick guilty of criminal vehicular homicide in the death of Jack Larson of Buffalo. Authorities said Frederick drove on the right shoulder to get around cars that were waiting for several children to cross a road in Merrifield and struck the boy who was visiting his grandparents for Mother's Day weekend. The defense argued that Frederick's medical issues may have led to the crash. A leading Minnesota drug abuse expert calls it a good first step that the federal government is moving to ban chemicals used to make so-called bath salts. Carol Folkowski says the synthetic drugs are gaining widespread use even though they are a serious health threat.
They're really a safety menace with dangerous and sometimes deadly consequences. They've been linked to several deaths, and they're sold in stores and online with with no oversight.
Folkowski says stopping internet sales is a critical factor in curbing the manufacture and sale of synthetic drugs. Such sales remain widespread. Folkowski is Drug Abuse Strategy Officer with the State Department of Human Services. Hutchinson police are investigating a burglary and theft of a homeowner's safe that occurred on Monday, August 29th. The victim, who lives in the 300 block of Monroe Street, says when he returned home from work just after 11 p.m., he found his front door had been forced open and someone had taken his small home safe containing an undisclosed amount of cash. The safe itself, worth $50, damage to the door is estimated at $300. The victim says the burglary occurred sometime between 12:30 in the afternoon and 11:15 in the evening. Sherburne County will lay off 17 sheriff's office employees next month, mainly in the jail, where inmate numbers have declined. The St. Cloud Times reports the county board voted Wednesday to lay off the 12 correctional officers, 2 licensed correctional officers, and 3 part-time staff, effective October 7th. Like other counties, Sherburne has seen its inmate numbers decline in recent years. Officials say the layoffs are expected to save the county $2.14 million through 2013. After unemployment and accumulated vacation and sick days are paid, the net savings will be about $1.85 million. A spokesman for American Crystal Sugar Company says there have been no issues with inexperienced replacement workers hired to take over harvesting duties this week.
About 1,300 regular workers have been locked out since August 1st after the union and management could not agree on a contract. The company began cutting beets this week at plants in Minnesota, North Dakota, and Iowa with replacement workers. Brian Inglesrud says that everything has been running well so far. Union spokesman Mark Fromke earlier said the company is playing high-stakes poker with the replacement workers. He says they could damage equipment or get hurt. The main harvest is scheduled to get underway around October 1st. Abby Popp reporting.
Governor Mark Dayton and key Republican lawmakers are getting around the state as they focus on creating jobs. The Democratic governor visits Brainerd today on the third stop of a statewide jobs tour. Dayton will hold a summit at Central Lake College. Meanwhile, legislative committees focused on jobs, higher education, and the environment are getting out of the Capitol today for visits around the state. The president's job speech. Republicans respond. ABC's Brad Wheelis reports.
Focus on the White House. The president's jobs plan includes a cut in the payroll deduction for Social Security.
Pass this jobs bill, and the typical working family will get a $1,500 tax cut next year.
The president wants to fix the tax code.
We need a tax code where everyone gets a fair shake.
Reaction, House Majority Leader Eric Cantor.
I think there's certainly plenty of policies in the president's speech tonight that we can work together on to get done.
Speaker Boehner says the proposal merits consideration, but Republican Congresswoman and presidential candidate Michelle Bachmann is against it.
Mr. President, stop. Your last plan hasn't worked, and it's hurting the American economy.
What next? ABC's Ann Compton.
If that looked like a State of the Union address, Brad, this next phase looks like a campaign. President Obama hits Richmond, the capital of Virginia, and then next week, Ohio's capital, Columbus, to enlist grassroots support.
I'm Brad Wheelis, ABC News.
U.S. counterterrorism officials are describing a potential terror threat on the September 11th anniversary as specific and credible but unconfirmed. Officials are chasing a possible al-Qaeda threat to attack New York or Washington with car bombs. Some people feel safer, but others do not since the attacks of September 11th, 10 years ago. U of M's David Karjanen specializes in American culture, and he believes there is still a sense of insecurity despite the passage of time and tighter national security.
Most Americans feel a sense of vulnerability, and it's perfectly reasonable. I mean, these were such atrocious, unexpected attacks of such scale that killed so many people. It's only natural that people after this traumatic event do feel a heightened sense of insecurity.
Karjanen thinks that despite some insecurity, most Americans are focused on the troubled economy rather than on Al-Qaeda. Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund holding a special state's capital ceremony this morning in honor of the 10th anniversary of 9/11. MMAF co-founder Denny Schulstead says the organization is awarding grants
to half a dozen different folks who have served in a combat area after 9/11. And we will also be presenting to the families of two of these people who died, who gave their lives.
The father of Lieutenant Christopher Gakey of Apple Valley and the widow of Lance Corporal Robert Greninger of Greenfield will accept $5,000 grants on behalf of their fallen loved ones. The MMAF has raised more than $12 million and awarded 12,000 grants since 2005. And from 1 to 3 this afternoon here on AM 1260 KDUZ, we'll have a special. Joel Niemeyer will have a special on the 9/11 anniversary. Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke says he's surprised by how cautious consumers are more than 2 years since the recession officially ended. Bernanke spoke to the Economic Club of Minnesota yesterday, but offered no hints of further steps the Fed might try to take to boost the weak economy. Minnesota students are eating more fresh, locally grown produce in school lunches this year. The Minnesota Department of Agriculture and the Minnesota Department of Health say it's a result of their farm-to-school efforts. The Ag Department's Minnesota Grown program has a new online directory that makes it easy for schools to find local farmers capable of supplying them. More than 65 farms are already listed in the database, with more being added every week.